My beloved brothers and sisters, one of the greatest secrets to success in life and in our faith is consistency. It is not about doing something once in a while with great energy, but about doing it regularly, even if it seems small. The Prophet Muhammad taught us that the most beloved deeds to Allah are those that are consistent, even if they are little. This means if you pray 2 rakat every day, read 1 page of Quran, or give a little charity, but you do it daily with sincerity, it carries far more weight than doing a lot once in a blue moon and then stopping. The reality is we will not always feel motivated. Our hearts go up and down, our emotions change, and sometimes laziness creeps in. But consistency is not about waiting for the perfect mood. It's about disciplining yourself to do what is right, even when you don't feel like it. That is what builds character. That is what transforms your life. If you only act when you feel motivated, you will never build habits that last. But when you push yourself, when you force yourself to stand for salah, to recite the Quran, to be kind, to study, to work hard, slowly you will see the fruits. Do not underestimate small steps. A drop of water falls again and again until it carves through rock. Likewise, your small, consistent efforts carve a new future for you. You may not see the results today, but if you remain steadfast, everything falls into place. Your spiritual strength grows, your heart becomes calm, your relationships improve, your work becomes productive, and most importantly, your connection with Allah becomes stronger. Stop giving excuses. Stop saying tomorrow. If you wait for the perfect time, it will never come. Start now, even if it is small. Train yourself with patience. Be consistent in your salah, your Quran, your good deeds, your studies, your work, and remember, tie your effort with trust in Allah. When you do your part with consistency, Allah opens doors you never imagined. That is when life truly begins to fall into place. Consistency is one of the most powerful qualities that a believer can develop. It is not about what you do once in a while, when you are inspired or when you feel strong, but it is about what you train yourself to do every single day, no matter how small. That is what truly shapes your identity and builds your character. Think about a person who prays with so much passion in the month of Ramadan, but after Ramadan ends, they abandon the prayer. Another person might not have that same intensity, but they quietly stand up for their 5 daily prayers every day without fail. Which one do you think has built a stronger character? The one who is consistent even in small deeds. Our beloved Prophet Muhammad told us that the most beloved deeds to Allah are those that are consistent even if they are little. This is because consistency creates discipline and discipline creates strength. When you push yourself to do something regularly, it becomes part of who you are. It becomes second nature. You no longer need to debate with yourself about whether or not you should pray, whether or not you should open the Quran, whether or not you should lower your gaze, whether or not you should speak kindly. It simply becomes who you are because you have repeated it enough times to make it your habit, your character. The human being is forgetful. Our hearts are always changing and our desires pull us in different directions. One day we feel motivated. The next day we feel lazy. If we only rely on feelings, we will never remain steadfast. But when you build consistency, you teach your heart to stay firm, even when the feeling is not there. This is why Allah tells us in the Quran to remain steadfast, to stand firm, to be patient. All of these qualities require consistency. You cannot be steadfast one day and careless the next. Otherwise, you are back at the starting point. But when you force yourself to keep going, slowly but surely, you notice that your heart becomes stronger, your faith becomes deeper, and your character is transformed. Think about a student who studies a little bit every day. They may not feel like they are learning much at first, but after a year they will have covered so much. Compare that to another student who studies for 10 hours one day and then does nothing for a month. Who will succeed? It is obvious. The one who was consistent. The same applies to our deen, our worship, our relationship with Allah. The Quran tells us about those who believe and do righteous deeds. Notice how it is mentioned together. Belief is not just a feeling in the heart, it is reflected in consistent action. Building character through consistency also means overcoming excuses. You might tell yourself, I will pray properly when I feel ready, or I will start reading Quran once I have more free time, or I will be kind when others are kind to me. But consistency is about doing it regardless of your mood, regardless of your circumstance. A person who forces themselves to smile and be polite, even when they are tired, eventually becomes known as someone with good character. A person who keeps praying, even when they are struggling, becomes known as someone steadfast. This is the transformation that consistency brings. In life, everyone faces obstacles. You will face distractions, hardships, moments of weakness. But when you have built consistency, you become resilient. You don't crumble at the first challenge. Imagine someone who goes to the gym once in a while versus someone who exercises regularly. The consistent person becomes physically strong. Their body is trained to endure. The same is true spiritually. When you are consistent in your worship, your patience, your good deeds, your soul becomes trained to handle trials. You no longer panic when difficulties come because your heart has been strengthened through regular connection with Allah. Consistency also protects you from arrogance. When you do something big once in a while, it is easy to feel proud, to show off, to think you have achieved something great. But when you are engaged in small, consistent deeds, you remain humble. You realize that your growth is gradual and you continue to strive. It keeps you grounded. It keeps you moving forward without being deceived by a single moment of effort. The truth is, without consistency, you cannot achieve anything meaningful. Not in your worship, not in your studies, not in your career, not in your relationships. Imagine a husband who is kind only once in a while, or a friend who shows up only when they feel like it. That is not true character. True character is shown through reliability, through being there again and again, through proving by your actions that you are committed. In the same way, your character with Allah is shown by whether you turn to Him day after day, whether you keep your salah alive, whether you keep your tongue moist with remembrance, whether you guard your heart from sin regularly. Consistency is difficult at first because it requires discipline. It requires forcing yourself to act even when you do not feel like it. But the more you repeat it, the easier it becomes. At first you may struggle to wake up for Fajr, but after some time it becomes a natural part of your life. At first you may struggle to give charity, but after some time generosity becomes part of your character. At first you may struggle to be patient, but after some time your heart becomes calm in the face of trials. This is the beauty of consistency. It slowly but surely reshapes you into a better version of yourself. In our journey of faith and in our daily lives, many people underestimate the power of small steps. They think that unless they do something big, it will not count, and unless they make huge changes overnight, they will not succeed. But the truth is, small steps matter more than we realize. It is those little consistent actions, those seemingly minor deeds that accumulate and transform a person over time. In fact, Allah loves deeds that are regular even if they are small. Why? Because small steps are sustainable. They build habits, they strengthen faith, and they bring long-term results. When a person takes one step forward every day, they may feel as though they are not moving fast enough. But look back after a year, after 5 years, and you will see how far those steps have taken you. Think about someone who recites even half a page of the Quran every day. At the moment, it feels small. It feels as though it is not much. But by the end of the year, that person will have completed the Quran several times. Another person may recite 10 pages in one day and then neglect it for months. Who do you think will benefit more in the long run? It is the one who took the small but steady steps. This principle applies to our worship, our character, our studies, and even our work. If you force yourself to be consistent in small actions, you develop discipline. You strengthen your resolve. You build momentum. A person who prays 2 raka'at of Sana every day before Fajr or after Maghrib and never abandons it will find that those prayers add light to their life, strength to their heart, and closeness to Allah. They may appear small compared to someone who prays extra prayers once in a while, but those 2 raka'at, because of consistency, will transform that person's relationship with Allah. We live in a world where people want instant results. They want to change their life overnight, fix their problems in a week, and achieve greatness without effort. But life does not work that way. Allah created time for a reason. Growth is gradual. You cannot plant a seed today and expect a tree tomorrow. You water it daily, you protect it, you wait patiently, and eventually it bears fruit. That is the power of small steps. They may not look like much in the beginning, but over time, they produce incredible results. Some people abandon good deeds because they think they are not doing enough. They say, what is the point of me reading one verse of Quran? What is the point of giving one coin in charity? What is the point of praying 2 units when I cannot do more? But this mindset is dangerous. That one verse could be the verse that softens your heart. That one coin could be the charity that Allah accepts and multiplies for you. That one prayer could be the turning point in your life. Never belittle a good deed, no matter how small. Remember that Allah is most merciful, most generous. He rewards beyond measure, and He knows the sincerity in your heart when you take those small steps toward Him. There is also wisdom in starting small. When you take on too much at once, you become overwhelmed. Your energy fades, your motivation disappears, and you give up completely. But when you start small, it becomes manageable. It becomes easy to repeat. That repetition then becomes habit, and habit becomes character. If you want to build a strong spiritual life, start with something simple that you can maintain every day. If you want to strengthen your salah, begin by focusing on one prayer with full concentration, then build on that. If you want to learn knowledge, read a few pages of a book daily, then increase gradually. That is how true progress is made. Even in our worldly affairs, small steps are the key to success. A person who saves a little money every day will, over time, build wealth. A person who spends 10 minutes a day learning a new skill will, over time, master it. A person who speaks kindly to their spouse or children daily will, over time, build a strong and loving relationship. It is never about doing something huge once in a while. It is about doing something small consistently. That is what leaves a mark. The danger of ignoring small steps is that you end up doing nothing at all. You keep waiting for the perfect opportunity, the perfect time, the perfect energy to do something big. But that time rarely comes. And while you wait, the days pass, the months pass, and you realize you have wasted years. On the other hand, the one who begins with something small immediately starts the journey. They do not wait for perfection. They begin where they are with what they can. And Allah blesses those steps. Allah increases them, Allah puts barakah in them, and Allah opens doors because of them. When you look at the lives of righteous people, you will see that their greatness was built on small, consistent actions. Their prayers were regular, their Quran recitation was daily, their kindness was constant, their charity was frequent. Over time, those small steps shaped them into people of strong faith and noble character. They did not become great overnight. They became great because they valued small deeds and never gave up on them. So do not belittle your small steps. Every sincere action counts. Every effort you make for the sake of Allah is recorded. Every little moment of patience, every smile, every kind word, every act of worship, it all matters. And when you keep adding those small steps, one after another, they accumulate into a journey of transformation. That is how lives are changed. That is how hearts are purified, and that is how everything falls into place. One of the greatest struggles we face as human beings is the constant battle between discipline and desire. The heart pulls us in one direction, the nafs calls us to ease, and shaitan whispers excuses to delay what is important. If we allow ourselves to act only when we feel like it, we will never build consistency in anything. True strength lies in disciplining yourself to do what is right, even when your desires are urging you to stay behind. This is why those who succeed in faith and in life are not the ones who always feel motivated, but the ones who practice discipline over desire. Desire always looks attractive in the short term. The desire to sleep feels better than waking up for Fajr. The desire to scroll endlessly on a phone feels easier than opening the Quran. The desire to stay silent in the face of injustice feels safer than speaking the truth. But when you obey these desires, you may feel momentary comfort, but you lose out on the lasting benefits. On the other hand, discipline requires sacrifice. It means pushing yourself to get up when your body wants to rest. It means telling your nafs no when it craves something harmful. It means training your mind to prioritize what matters most. And though discipline feels heavy in the beginning, it brings lasting peace, growth, and success. Think about the one who trains in any skill. The athlete does not always want to run in the rain, to lift the heavy weights, to practice day after day. But they push themselves with discipline, and because of that, they achieve excellence. The student does not always want to study late into the night or revise what seems repetitive, but with discipline, they become knowledgeable. The same principle applies to the believer. If you only worship Allah when your heart feels inspired, you will not achieve steadfastness. But when you discipline yourself to pray even when you are tired, to fast even when it is hard, to control your tongue even when anger boils, you rise above your desires and build true taqwa. Our desires are part of being human. Allah created us with them, but He also gave us the ability to control them. That control is what differentiates a person who lives with purpose from a person who drifts aimlessly. Everyone feels lazy at times. Everyone has moments when they would rather relax than strive. But discipline is the ability to push through those moments. It is about making decisions with your mind and your faith, not just your emotions. The Quran speaks about those who restrain their desires and reminds us that paradise is not cheap. It is surrounded by struggles, while hellfire is surrounded by temptations. This means the easy road, the road of giving in to every desire, will only lead to regret. The harder road, the one of discipline and restraint, is the road that leads to success in both this life and the next. Discipline is also about long-term vision. Desires are short-sighted. They focus on what feels good now, even if it harms later. Discipline focuses on what benefits in the long run, even if it requires sacrifice now. For example, when you discipline yourself to pray 5 times a day, you are investing in your hereafter, protecting your soul, and finding peace in your heart. Missing those prayers may give you an extra hour of sleep, but what will you lose in exchange? Similarly, when you discipline yourself to avoid haram wealth, you may face temporary hardship, but Allah places barakah in your life. When you give in to the desire of quick profit through haram, means you may feel rich for a while, but that wealth becomes a burden and removes barakah. It is important to understand that no one naturally loves discipline. It always feels heavy at first. Even the most pious people had to struggle with their nafs. But the more you train yourself, the easier it becomes. Just like the body adapts to exercise, the soul adapts to spiritual discipline. At first, waking up for Fajr feels almost impossible, but once you discipline yourself for a month, 2 months, 3 months, it becomes part of your routine. At first, lowering the gaze feels unnatural, but with discipline it becomes automatic. This is the beauty of discipline. It transforms what was once difficult into something natural, until obedience to Allah becomes your comfort and sin becomes distasteful. Desire will always try to trick you. It will whisper, just this once. It will say, you can make up for it later. It will convince you that you deserve a break from striving. But every time you obey desire, it grows stronger. Every time you choose discipline instead, you weaken the grip of desire. This is why those who truly succeed in life are not necessarily the most talented or the most gifted, but the most disciplined. They are the ones who showed up every day, who controlled their impulses, who focused on what mattered instead of what was easy. Discipline is not about punishing yourself or living without joy. It is about controlling your desires so that they serve you rather than enslave you. When you let desires control you, you become a prisoner to them. But when you discipline yourself, you use those desires in the right way at the right time within the limits that Allah has set. Eating is a desire, but with discipline it becomes an act of worship through halal food and gratitude. Rest is a desire, but with discipline it becomes a way to regain strength for more worship and productivity. Discipline does not kill desire, it channels it. Every time you choose discipline over desire, you are planting a seed in your soul. Those seeds grow into patience, resilience, and strength. You begin to carry yourself with dignity because you know you are not ruled by fleeting whims. You become reliable in your worship, dependable in your character, and steadfast in your journey, that is when Allah opens doors for you, because you have shown Him that you are serious about striving, that you are willing to sacrifice your ease for His sake. And once you reach that stage, you realize that discipline was never a burden. It was the key that unlocked peace, success, and closeness to Allah. The most powerful way to build consistency in life is to anchor yourself in daily worship, especially the Quran and Salah. These two acts of worship are not just rituals, they are lifelines. They are the foundation upon which everything else in your life stands. When you establish them properly, they naturally bring consistency to every other area of your life. If you look at people who are disciplined, who manage their time well, who maintain focus, you will often find that their day revolves around Salah and their heart remains attached to the Quran. This is because worship trains the soul, and when the soul is trained, everything else falls into place. Salah is not just a prayer, it is a daily appointment with Allah. 5 times a day, you are reminded that your purpose in life is not just to eat, sleep, work, and chase desires, but to remember your Creator. Imagine if you lived your life without these fixed points. You would drift aimlessly. You would allow your time to slip away without structure. Salah gives structure to your day. It forces you to pause, to reconnect, to step away from distractions, and to stand humbly before the one who gave you everything. When you never miss your Salah, when you guard it carefully, you naturally build consistency because you are training your mind and body to show up at specific times every day, no matter what. The Quran, on the other hand, is not just a book to be read occasionally. It is guidance, light, and healing for the heart. Reciting it daily, even if it is a small portion, feeds your soul in a way that nothing else can. When you neglect the Quran, you feel lost, distracted, and heavy. But when you make it a habit to open it every day, even for 10 minutes, you find clarity and peace. You start your day with perspective. You end your day with remembrance. And in between, you find strength in knowing that Allah has addressed every situation in your life through His words. The Quran reminds you of patience, of gratitude, of the reality of this world, and of the importance of striving for the next. That constant reminder is what keeps you consistent, because it refreshes your heart and renews your faith daily. Think about how Allah has spread Salah throughout the day. It is not all at once, it is spread out morning to night. This is divine wisdom. Each prayer pulls you back on track. When you begin the day with Fajr, you are starting with light and discipline. When you pray Dhuhr in the middle of your work, you remind yourself that nothing is more important than your Creator. Asr keeps you steady in the late afternoon when tiredness sets in. Maghrib welcomes the evening with gratitude. Isha ends your day with submission and peace. Each prayer is a step that guides you through the day, preventing you from becoming distracted for too long, pulling you back again and again to what matters most. And when you repeat this day after day, year after year, your entire life becomes built around consistency. People often complain that they struggle with laziness, lack of motivation, or lack of productivity. But if you examine their routine, you often find that Salah is neglected or delayed. When you delay Salah, you are teaching your soul to procrastinate. You are showing yourself that it is acceptable to put off important things. But when you guard Salah on time, you are teaching yourself to respect your commitments. You are building the habit of punctuality. You are disciplining yourself to prioritize the most important tasks. And that discipline naturally extends to your studies, your work, your relationships, and your personal goals. Salah trains you for consistency in all areas of life. The Quran does the same. When you commit to reading a small portion daily, you learn the power of small steps. Even if you cannot recite pages upon pages, even if you only recite a few verses, you are training yourself to stay connected. And the miracle of the Quran is that every verse, no matter how small, carries guidance and healing. Sometimes a single verse recited with reflection can change your day. Sometimes a single page can remind you of your purpose. When you remain consistent with the Quran, you find that your heart becomes stronger, your faith becomes resilient, and your vision becomes clearer. You start to recognize right from wrong more easily. You become more patient with trials, and you develop a deeper awareness of Allah in everything you do. Daily worship is also protection. Life is full of distractions, temptations, and trials. Without the shield of Salah and Quran, you are vulnerable, but with them you are guarded. Salah protects you from falling into indecency and wrongdoing. The Quran protects you from doubts and despair. Together, they keep you steady on the straight path. And when you are steady spiritually, you naturally become steady in your worldly affairs too. A heart that is connected to Allah is not easily shaken by problems. A mind that is filled with Quran is not easily clouded by confusion. A person who is punctual with Salah is not easily swayed by laziness. That consistency in worship becomes the root of consistency in life. So if you want to build discipline, if you want to build strength, if you want to live a life of purpose, start with the Quran and Salah. Do not underestimate their power. They may seem simple, but they are the most profound tools for transformation. Salah is your daily training, and the Quran is your daily nourishment. Without training, you become weak. Without nourishment, you become empty. But with both, you become strong, focused, and consistent. And when you are consistent in your worship, you will find that everything else, your studies, your work, your character, your relationships begins to fall into place naturally because the foundation is firm and unshakable. One of the greatest misconceptions that people have when they try to become better in their faith or in their personal life is that the journey should always feel easy. The moment they encounter difficulty, laziness, or moments of weakness, they assume something is wrong with them, or that they are not good enough, or that perhaps the effort is not worth it. But the truth is that struggles are completely normal. Every human being who strives for consistency faces them. Even the most righteous people, even the strongest believers, even the ones who inspire others all the time, they too go through days when they feel weak, tired, and less motivated. Struggle is part of the process of growth, and without it, we cannot develop strength. If life were always easy, there would be no need for patience, no need for resilience, no need for perseverance. The reality is that Allah created us in a way where our hearts fluctuate. One day your faith feels strong, another day it feels weak. One day you wake up with energy to pray and read Quran, another day you feel like staying in bed. This fluctuation is natural. What matters is not whether you feel the struggle, but what you do during the struggle. If you allow it to defeat you, you fall behind. If you recognize it as part of the journey and push through, you grow stronger. Think about how a muscle grows. It only grows when it faces resistance. If you lift something light, it does not challenge your muscle, so it does not grow. But when you lift something heavy, when you push against resistance, your muscle tears slightly and then rebuilds stronger. The same is true of the soul. When you face the weight of laziness, temptation, or hardship, and you push through with patience and effort, your soul grows stronger. Without those struggles, you would never reach new levels of strength. This is why struggles are not a sign of failure. They are a sign that you are on the path of growth. Everyone who has achieved anything meaningful has gone through struggles. The prophets themselves faced challenges beyond imagination. They were mocked, rejected, tested with loss, and pressured by their people. Yet they remained steadfast. Their lives are a reminder that struggle is not a punishment. It is a path to greatness. When you find it hard to wake up for Fajr, remember that you are not alone. Many people struggle, but the ones who succeed are those who push themselves out of bed despite the tiredness. When you find it hard to lower your gaze or control your tongue, remember that everyone faces these tests, but the ones who succeed are those who discipline themselves to stay firm. The difference is not in who struggles and who does not, but in who overcomes the struggle. Struggles are also a way for Allah to purify you. If everything came easily, you might become arrogant. You might think that you are perfect. But when you struggle, you remember your weakness. You turn to Allah for help. You make dua more sincerely and you rely on Him more deeply. In that reliance, your heart grows closer to Him. That closeness is far more valuable than a life of ease without connection to Allah. So when you struggle, do not despair. See it as an opportunity to seek Allah's mercy and strengthen your relationship with Him. It is also important to understand that every struggle looks different. For some people, the hardest struggle is consistency in salah. For others, it may be battling anger, jealousy, or pride. For others, it may be avoiding haram temptations. Your struggle may not be the same as someone else's, but it does not mean it is less significant. Allah knows your heart, He knows your effort, and He knows the battles you fight silently every day. Do not compare your journey to others. Focus on your own struggle and know that Allah rewards every ounce of effort, even when the results do not show immediately. Sometimes the struggle is prolonged. You may try again and again to build a habit, and you may fail again and again. Do not let that break you. Every attempt is progress. Every time you rise after falling, you are proving to yourself and to Allah that you are serious about striving. Falling does not make you a failure, staying down does. As long as you get back up and keep trying, you are still moving forward. This persistence is what Allah loves. He does not expect perfection from us, but He does expect effort. The mistake many people make is thinking that once they struggle, it means they are not cut out for the journey. They give up because it feels too hard. But remember, anything valuable requires effort. Paradise is the most valuable reward, and naturally, it will require struggle. If people can struggle for years in their careers, in their studies, or in building businesses, why should we expect the path to Allah to be effortless? The fact that it is difficult is what makes it meaningful. The fact that it requires sacrifice is what makes the reward so great. So when you wake up tired, when you feel lazy, when you stumble into sin, do not lose hope. Recognize it as part of being human. Push yourself a little more. Ask Allah for help. Do not give in to the whisper that says you are not good enough. Everyone struggles, but not everyone perseveres. Be among those who persevere. And remember that every small victory over your struggle is huge in the sight of Allah. Even if you only manage to do a little, even if you only manage to push yourself once when you could have failed, that is still a victory, and Allah appreciates it. Success in any area of life does not come overnight. It is not something you stumble upon by chance, nor is it a result of a single moment of effort. Real success, whether in your deen or in your dunya, is the product of two powerful qualities, working hand in hand, patience and consistency. Without patience, you will give up too early. Without consistency, your efforts will be scattered. But when you combine both, when you are willing to wait and willing to keep going, that is when true success is achieved. Patience is about enduring hardship, delays, and difficulties without losing hope. It is about remaining calm when the results do not appear immediately. Consistency is about showing up again and again, even when the progress seems invisible. Together, they create a powerful formula that shapes character and brings results. Many people fail not because they are incapable, but because they lack patience. They want immediate results, and when they do not see them, they lose motivation. Others lack consistency. They begin with passion, but they quickly fade away. Those who succeed are those who hold both qualities. They are patient enough to wait and consistent enough to keep going. In matters of faith, this is especially true. When you begin praying regularly, reciting Quran daily, or trying to overcome bad habits, you may expect instant transformation. But the reality is that change takes time. The heart requires nurturing, the soul requires training, and habits require repetition. You may not feel different after 1 week of effort, or even after a month. That is where patience comes in. You keep going, trusting that Allah sees your effort, even if you do not yet see the results. And that is where consistency comes in. You do not abandon the path just because the fruit has not yet appeared. You continue watering the seed with salah, with dua, with remembrance, with discipline, until one day you realize that your heart has softened, your sins have lessened, and your connection with Allah has grown stronger. In worldly matters too, the same principle applies. A student cannot expect to become knowledgeable after reading for one day. They must patiently endure the long hours of study and consistently review their lessons over time. An athlete does not become strong by training once. They must patiently accept the pain of practice and consistently repeat it until their body adapts. A business does not grow after 1 week of effort. It requires patience with setbacks and consistency in strategy until results appear. This is the law of success written into the fabric of life. Patience and consistency are non-negotiable. One of the biggest challenges people face today is the culture of instant gratification. Everything is designed to be quick and immediate. People want quick food, quick entertainment, quick money, quick recognition. But anything that comes instantly is shallow and short-lived. The deeper, lasting rewards always require patience and consistency. If you want knowledge that remains with you, you must put in years of effort. If you want relationships that are strong, you must invest in them daily. If you want faith that is unshakable, you must nurture it consistently with patience in moments of weakness. Patience is not passive. It is not about sitting back and doing nothing while waiting for things to happen. Real patience is active endurance. It means you are still working, still striving, still moving forward, even while waiting for results. Imagine a farmer planting seeds. He does not sit back idly and expect crops to grow overnight. He patiently waters them, removes the weeds, protects them from harm, and consistently tends to them until harvest season arrives. The same applies to our lives. You plant your efforts, you water them with prayer, you protect them from sin, and you continue patiently, knowing that eventually the harvest will come, even if it takes years. The beauty of combining patience and consistency is that it brings peace to the heart. When you understand that success takes time, you stop feeling frustrated at every delay. When you are consistent, you know that every small step is progress, even if the destination is far. This mindset prevents despair. It keeps you motivated even when life tests you, because you know that every day you persist is a victory in itself. You may not see the full picture now, but you trust that each act of patience and consistency is building towards something greater. There will always be moments when you feel like giving up. You may think your dua is not being answered, your effort is not being noticed, or your goals are too far away. But patience reminds you that Allah's timing is perfect, and consistency reminds you that nothing is wasted. Every prayer you make, every good deed you do, every moment you resist temptation, it is all written down. Even if you do not see the outcome immediately, Allah sees it, and He will reward it in ways you cannot imagine, sometimes in this world and certainly in the next. True success is not just about reaching the destination. It is about who you become along the way. Patience shapes you into someone calm, resilient, and trusting in Allah. Consistency shapes you into someone reliable, disciplined, and steadfast. Together, they transform your character. And when you finally achieve your goal, whether it is mastering knowledge, building a strong family, or strengthening your relationship with Allah, you realize that the journey itself was the real success because it molded you into the person you needed to be. So whenever you feel restless, whenever you feel like the results are too slow, remind yourself that nothing valuable comes instantly. Every great achievement requires patience, and every meaningful change requires consistency. Keep going step by step with your eyes fixed on Allah's pleasure, and trust that He will never let your effort go to waste. One of the greatest barriers to success, both in faith and in worldly matters, is the habit of making excuses. Excuses may sound convincing in the moment, but in reality, they are chains that hold you back from progress. Every time you say, I will start tomorrow, or I am too busy, or I am not ready, you are allowing your excuses to rob you of opportunities. The difference between people who achieve and those who remain stagnant is not that one group never faced difficulties while the other did. It is that one group found reasons to move forward while the other found excuses to stay behind. When it comes to worship, excuses are one of the strongest tools of Shaitan. He whispers that you are too tired to pray, too busy to recite Quran, too sinful to turn back to Allah, too unprepared to change. But these are nothing more than lies. The reality is that you will never have a perfectly free schedule, you will never feel fully ready, and you will never find the ideal circumstances to begin. If you keep waiting for those conditions, you will wait your whole life. The ones who succeed are those who begin despite their imperfections, who push themselves even when it is inconvenient, who stop listening to the voice of excuses and start acting with determination. Excuses are comforting in the short term because they remove responsibility. If you convince yourself that you are too busy to pray, then you feel less guilty about missing Salah. If you tell yourself that you will start reading Quran once you have more time, then you avoid facing your neglect. But this comfort is dangerous. It is temporary relief at the cost of long-term regret. On the day of judgment, excuses will not save anyone. Allah will not ask you if you had a perfect schedule or perfect energy. He will ask if you tried, if you made effort, if you took steps toward Him. Excuses cannot be presented as answers when accountability is required. In worldly matters, the same truth applies. Many people dream of success but never achieve it because of excuses. They want to study but say they are too old. They want to build a business but say they lack resources. They want to improve their health but say they do not have time. Yet others in the same situation take action step by step and slowly transform their lives. The reality is that most excuses are not genuine barriers. They are just ways of avoiding discomfort. And the irony is that the discomfort of discipline is far lighter than the burden of regret that comes from wasted years. The danger of excuses is that they grow stronger the more you use them. Each time you allow yourself to delay, you are strengthening the habit of procrastination. It becomes easier to skip Salah the second time, easier to neglect Quran the next time, easier to put off good deeds repeatedly. Before long, you find yourself stuck in a cycle where excuses feel natural and effort feels foreign. Breaking out of this cycle requires honesty. You must admit to yourself that you are not too busy, but that you are choosing other priorities. You are not too tired, but that you are letting your desires lead you. That honesty may sting, but it is the first step toward freedom. Avoiding excuses requires a shift in mindset. Instead of asking, why can't I do this? You begin to ask, how can I do this? Instead of saying, I do not have time, you ask, how can I make time? Instead of saying, I will start it tomorrow, you ask, what small step can I take today? This change in perspective forms obstacles into challenges and challenges into opportunities. You stop seeing problems as reasons to give up and start seeing them as tests to overcome. And once you adopt this mindset, you realize that most excuses were nothing more than illusions created by your own mind. Another danger of excuses is that they make you miss out on Barakah. You may think you are saving time or saving energy by avoiding effort, but in reality you are losing blessings. When you push yourself to pray despite being tired, Allah places Barakah in your rest. When you give charity despite feeling that your money is little, Allah multiplies it for you. When you read Quran despite being busy, Allah eases your affairs. Excuses make you lose these blessings while effort brings them into your life. The person who prays on time never regrets it. The person who avoids excuses and pushes forward never regrets it. The regret only comes from delaying. It is also important to realize that excuses are contagious. When you keep making them, you influence those around you, your children, your friends, your family. They hear your words and they learn to repeat them. But when you stop making excuses and start taking action, you inspire them to do the same. A parent who insists on Salah despite being tired teaches their children that worship is non-negotiable. A student who keeps studying despite difficulty inspires their peers to persist. Your choice to avoid excuses is not just for yourself. It is an example that ripples through others. Life will always present reasons to delay. There will always be tiredness, business, distractions, and challenges. If you let them become excuses, you will never move forward. But if you see them as part of the journey, you will grow stronger. The reality is that effort matters more than excuses, and Allah rewards effort even when it seems small. Every time you push yourself despite your excuses, you are proving your sincerity. You are showing Allah that you value Him above your comfort. And Allah never lets sincerity go unrewarded. There is a deep connection between the way we live our spiritual lives and the way we succeed in our worldly affairs. Many people separate the two as if they are unrelated, but in reality, they are closely tied. The one who is disciplined and consistent in their relationship with Allah often finds that this discipline spills over into every other area of life. When you are steady in your Salah, regular with your Quran, and consistent in your worship, You build habits of punctuality, focus, and self-control. These very same qualities are the foundation of success in studies, careers, relationships, and personal growth. In other words, worldly success is often a reflection of spiritual consistency. Salah, for example, is not just a ritual act of worship. It trains you in time management. You cannot pray whenever you feel like it. You must pray at fixed times, no matter how busy you are or what you are doing. A person who learns to honor these times is learning discipline. They are learning how to prioritize what truly matters over distractions. That same discipline translates into their studies, their work, and their commitments. They become the kind of person who respects deadlines, who shows up on time, who does not waste hours aimlessly. All of this starts from spiritual consistency, and the worldly results naturally follow. The Quran also shapes a person's success. When you recite it daily, reflect on its meanings, and allow it to guide your actions, you develop clarity of thought and strength of character. The Quran teaches patience, gratitude, humility, and determination. These are not just spiritual qualities, they are practical tools for navigating the world. A grateful person works with positivity. A patient person overcomes difficulties without breaking down. A humble person works well with others. A determined person never gives up on their goals. All of these traits, cultivated through spiritual consistency, are the same traits that lead to success in life. Think about people who lack spiritual consistency. They may appear successful for a while, but often their lives feel empty, unstable, or filled with anxiety. Without prayer anchoring them, they drift from one distraction to another. Without Quran reminding them of purpose, they chase goals without satisfaction. But the one who is consistent in their worship finds inner peace and direction, and that inner state reflects outwardly. Their work becomes more focused, their decisions more thoughtful, their relationships more meaningful. Spiritual strength provides the foundation for worldly balance. Another important point is that when you are spiritually consistent, Allah places barakah in your life. Barakah means blessings, ease, and productivity beyond what seems possible. A person who prays Fajr on time may lose some sleep, but they gain energy and clarity for the entire day. A person who gives a small portion of their wealth in charity may appear to have less, but Allah increases their wealth in ways they never expected. A person who dedicates time to Quran may lose minutes from their busy schedule, but Allah opens doors and makes their tasks easier. This unseen barakah is what often separates those who succeed with peace from those who appear successful but feel restless inside. Worldly success is not just about wealth or recognition. It is also about stability, fulfillment, and lasting impact. A person who is spiritually consistent lives with values that shape their worldly interactions. They are honest in business because they fear Allah. They are trustworthy in dealings because they remember accountability. They treat people with kindness because they are conscious of reward and punishment. These qualities make them respected and valued in society, which in turn brings opportunities, success, and influence. Spiritual consistency builds a reputation that money cannot buy. When you look at the lives of people who inspire others, you will often notice that their strength in worldly matters came from their spiritual foundations. The scholar who spent years gaining knowledge was consistent with Quran and Salah. The leader who guided others with wisdom was patient and disciplined through worship. The entrepreneur who succeeded with integrity was consistent in avoiding haram and relying on Allah. Their worldly achievements were not separate from their faith, they were a reflection of it. This connection also works on a personal level. A student who maintains their salah finds themselves more organized with their studies. A professional who remembers Allah throughout the day finds themselves calmer under pressure. A parent who recites Quran regularly finds themselves more patient with their children. These are real life reflections of spiritual consistency. It shapes the way you think, the way you act, and the way you respond to challenges, and this naturally influences your worldly outcomes. It is also important to realize that true success is holistic. If you succeed in your career but lose your connection with Allah, what have you really gained? If you achieve wealth but your heart is empty, can that be called success? Real success is when your worldly achievements align with your spiritual growth. That harmony comes only through consistency in worship. It keeps you grounded when success comes, and it gives you hope when failures occur. It ensures that no matter what happens in the dunya, your ultimate direction remains toward Allah. So, when striving for worldly success, never neglect spiritual consistency. Do not think that Salah is only for the afterlife, or that Quran has nothing to do with your studies or career. They are the very foundation of your discipline, your clarity, your character, and your barakah. The more consistent you are with your worship, the more you will find stability, strength, and success in your worldly journey. Spiritual consistency does not take time away from your goals. It fuels them, supports them, and aligns them with a greater purpose. And that is why worldly success often reflects spiritual consistency. Accountability is one of the most powerful tools for growth, yet it is something many people avoid because it requires honesty and responsibility. To be accountable means to acknowledge your actions, your choices, and your shortcomings without running away from them. It means to recognize that you are responsible for the way you spend your time, the way you use your abilities, and the way you live your life. In the Islamic sense, accountability is even deeper because we know that every moment is recorded, every action is written, and every word is preserved. The awareness of this should drive a believer to live with consciousness, to avoid negligence, and to push themselves toward consistency. The reality is that we will all stand before Allah one day and be questioned. On that day, there will be no excuses, no hiding, and no opportunity to shift blame onto others. Every individual will face their deeds as they are. This is the ultimate accountability. The more we remember this reality, the more careful we become with our actions today. It is easy to live carelessly when you think no one is watching, but the believer knows that Allah is always watching. This awareness makes you cautious, not just about major sins, but also about the small daily choices. How you speak to others, how you use your time, how you treat your parents, how you conduct your business. Accountability is not just about the big events of life. It is about the constant small moments where choices are made. Without accountability, consistency is impossible. A person who does not check themselves will keep repeating mistakes without correction. They will keep making excuses without change. But the one who holds themselves accountable will pause, reflect, and adjust. When they miss a prayer, they feel it deeply and try not to repeat it. When they waste time, they notice it and strive to improve the next day. When they wrong someone, they admit it and seek forgiveness. This self-awareness is what keeps the heart alive and prevents the soul from falling into heedlessness. Accountability is like a mirror. It shows you the reality of who you are, whether you like it or not. Without that mirror, you live in illusions. Even in worldly matters, accountability is what separates success from failure. A student who does not review their performance will never know why they failed. A worker who does not admit mistakes will never improve. A parent who does not reflect on their role will never strengthen their relationship with their children. Growth requires the courage to face your shortcomings honestly. Denial may feel comfortable, but it keeps you trapped. Accountability may feel uncomfortable, but it sets you free to change and grow. One of the ways to develop accountability is through self-reflection. Taking a few moments every night to think about how you spent your day can be transformative. Did you pray on time? Did you waste hours on distractions? Did you use your tongue for good or for harm? Did you fulfill your responsibilities? This small daily practice creates awareness. It prevents you from sleepwalking through life. It reminds you that time is limited, that opportunities are precious, and that each day is either a gain or a loss. Those who live with this kind of awareness are more likely to remain consistent because they see clearly where they are succeeding and where they are falling short. Accountability also becomes stronger when you connect it to your purpose. If you know that your ultimate goal is to please Allah and reach Jannah, then you will measure your actions according to that goal. You will ask yourself, is what I am doing bringing me closer to Allah or further away? Is this choice helping me in the long run or only giving me temporary comfort? This kind of questioning transforms the way you live. It prevents you from wasting time on what does not matter and keeps you focused on what truly does. Another important aspect of accountability is surrounding yourself with people who remind you. Sometimes you may not see your own faults clearly, but others do. Having righteous friends who advise you sincerely and family members who encourage you to do better is a blessing. Their reminders keep you from drifting too far. They act as external accountability partners who push you back when you lose your balance. Ignoring these reminders is dangerous, but listening to them can save you from mistakes you did not even notice. At the same time, accountability requires humility. It is easy to defend yourself, to blame circumstances, or to compare yourself to others in order to feel better. But humility allows you to admit, I was wrong, I can do better, I need to change. This humility is beloved to Allah because it shows sincerity and a willingness to grow. It is the opposite of arrogance, which blinds a person to their faults and prevents them from improving. A humble person who makes mistakes but admits them and seeks forgiveness is far ahead of the one who denies their faults while appearing strong. Accountability also builds trust with others. When people see that you take responsibility for your actions, they respect you. They know that you will not hide behind lies or excuses. This trust is valuable in families, in communities, in workplaces. It creates stronger relationships because accountability shows integrity. And when Allah sees that you are honest with yourself and with others, He blesses your affairs and guides you toward improvement. Ultimately, accountability is about realizing that life is short and that every moment counts. Each prayer delayed, each opportunity wasted, each sin ignored, it all adds up. But so does each effort made, each mistake corrected, each step taken toward Allah. Holding yourself accountable every day ensures that you are moving forward instead of drifting backward. It keeps you awake in a world that constantly invites you to sleep spiritually. It pushes you to strive for consistency because you know that you will answer for your actions and you want to meet Allah with a record that reflects effort, sincerity, and growth. No matter how strong, disciplined, or determined a person tries to be, true consistency and lasting success cannot be achieved without relying on Allah. Human beings are weak by nature. We tire easily, we get distracted quickly, and our hearts fluctuate between moments of motivation and moments of laziness. Left on our own, we would fail again and again. What sustains us is not our own power, but the strength that Allah grants when we turn to Him sincerely. Relying on Allah does not mean doing nothing and expecting Him to do everything for us. It means exerting our effort while placing full trust in Him to guide, support, and bless those efforts. Every act of worship, every moment of patience, every attempt to remain consistent comes from His permission. Even when you stand for salah, it is only because Allah allowed your heart to want it, your body to have the energy, and your mind to remember. Without His help, you would have missed it. This is why the believer constantly asks Allah for strength. You recognize your weakness, you admit your limitations, and you beg Him to help you stay firm. When you do this sincerely, He opens doors for you. He eases your path, and He gives you strength beyond what you thought possible. When you rely on yourself, your strength will run out. You may be motivated today, but tired tomorrow. You may be consistent for a week, but lazy the next. Human willpower fluctuates, and it cannot be trusted fully. But when you rely on Allah, His strength never decreases. He is always capable, always merciful, always near to those who call upon Him. He gives energy to the tired, hope to the hopeless, and determination to those who want to give up. This is why the most successful believers are not the ones with the most talent or intelligence, but the ones who humble themselves before Allah and constantly ask Him to keep them steadfast. In every salah, we repeat the words, "It is you we worship and you we ask for help." This is the essence of reliance. We worship Allah, but we know that even our ability to worship comes only with His help. We ask Him to guide us to the straight path because we cannot remain firm without His guidance. These words remind us that consistency is not just about personal effort, it is about divine support. The heart that relies on Allah will never be abandoned, even if the journey is difficult. There are countless moments in life when a person feels too weak to continue. You may wake up for Fajr and feel too heavy to rise. You may be fighting against sin and feel too weak to resist. You may be striving for consistency in Quran and feel too distracted to focus. In these moments, whisper to Allah, oh Allah, help me. Oh Allah, make it easy for me. Oh Allah, strengthen me. You will be surprised at how He responds, often in ways you did not expect. Suddenly the tiredness lifts, the temptation weakens, the distraction fades, and you find yourself able to do what seemed impossible moments earlier. This is not your strength, it is His gift. Relying on Allah also removes arrogance. When you achieve success, whether spiritual or worldly, you do not attribute it to your own efforts alone. You know it was Allah who guided you, Allah who gave you the opportunity, and Allah who granted you the ability. This humility protects your heart from pride because you recognize that without His help, you would be nothing. It also keeps you grateful because every success becomes a reminder of His generosity rather than a source of self-admiration. At the same time, reliance on Allah brings peace. Life is full of uncertainty, challenges, and setbacks. If you depend only on yourself, you will always feel anxious because you know how fragile your control is. But if you rely on Allah, you rest assured that He is in charge, that He will never burden you beyond what you can bear, and that He will reward every effort, even if the results are not immediate. This mindset allows you to keep moving forward without despair. You may fail in people's eyes, but if you relied on Allah and made effort, you have already succeeded in His eyes. Worldly goals also require reliance on Allah. Students can study tirelessly, but without His help, they forget in the exam hall. Business people can work hard, but without His blessing, their profits disappear. Athletes can train endlessly, but without His will, their strength fails. Success in dunya is never purely from effort. It is effort combined with reliance. When you make dua before studying, when you ask Allah before a business deal, when you remember Him before a challenge, you are seeking His blessing. And with His blessing, small actions bring great results, while without it, even great actions bring little benefit. Relying on Allah does not mean neglecting effort. It means combining effort with trust. The Prophet tied his camel, then trusted in Allah. He prepared for battles, then placed his trust in Allah. He took action in dunya, but his heart always relied on Allah's plan. This is the balance every believer must seek. Strive with your best effort, but know in your heart that the outcome is from Allah alone. Ultimately, relying on Allah gives you the strength to remain consistent because you are not relying on your fluctuating emotions or your limited abilities. You are relying on the one who never tires, never forgets, never weakens, and never abandons His servants. The more you turn to Him for strength, the more He will carry you through your struggles. And when you look back, you will realize that every step you took, every victory you achieved, every sin you resisted, it was all through His help. Reliance on Allah is not weakness. It is the greatest source of power a believer can have. Life is not about achieving perfection overnight, nor is it about living without struggles or challenges. It is about striving with sincerity, taking small steps with consistency, and relying on Allah through every weakness and every difficulty. The path may feel heavy at times, but remember, each effort is noticed, each tear is counted, each prayer is recorded. Do not underestimate the power of persistence. Force yourself to be consistent even when it feels difficult, and watch how Allah opens doors you never imagined. Struggles are part of the journey. Patience is your companion. Accountability is your guide, and reliance on Allah is your strength. If you hold on to these principles, not only will your worldly affairs begin to fall into place, but more importantly, your heart will find peace. Your soul will find purpose, and your akhirah will shine with the mercy of Allah. Stay steadfast, stay sincere, and never stop walking toward Him. Because when you take one step toward Allah, He comes running toward you with mercy and guidance. Thank you, everyone,